Okay, so welcome back. Hello again, Tashi Delay.
Tashi Delay is any young session Jovalaya Tashi Delay.
Before I get too excited and move on, I just wanted to see if there were any questions first.
Tatanda Sawatungu Matsungalaya and it Tambo Delay Chitsunana and a Joa Universe.
Looks like they're still settling, maybe not, maybe running a microphone to somebody, who knows?
Joa Unit Joa Tamachi
Maybe.
Tampote. Joy is at the Joamena good to Roy. Joy not to
Everything is quite clear, it seems.
Okay.
No question.
Sound great.
Okay, so I believe this is where I left off last time, which is going to cover the efficiency of simple machines.
Tangi the Kesanga Zenta Samshas Tambalaya, Nangaso the Tabdigi Tuchi or Tabdigi Tuchi, any Lichu search or what at Likachiagi Takosete, or Delaya, any Kesanga to Samshire race.
The equation I wrote earlier that said the work in equals the work out is not really true. It's only true if there are no frictional losses.
The Kesanga so decisions Tambalai, correct decisions Tamba Yoresena, the Nanjik Lekatiro, not the Chubi Lekateda. Ani tachula tombe tela tani de tachula chombi le kasagorwata nga suite kapsa ta jutan tribusana court nala ya chupi le kat ta chula tombe le kanche kesanga suge ani chipa incident jayores imaina ya ke de roa ta lekate drip cups chawate drip cups ani darshula tembe ge nyubate thula thu yo paina darshula tani nyubate lagu yo paina ni kesan shesha juge.
So some of these frictional losses go into heating up the actual machine or into sound energy, into the environment. But basically it means that the work that's put out is always going to be slightly less than the work that was put in.
Tanda digita darshila ten karichungores and darshila tenita nubachi lasha jute some layanga so any chuchiti chouch hayalaya pechutado some layanga so jado darshila ya cochedo tinado chiche nubati to stalado yores tins tambalaya natsuge non-jukileka choro Padrisha Jugulecate, Chulo Tunjugulecate, Samatang by Bana, Chulo Tumbigilecate, or Chulola Tumbigilecate, Nanjiculecale, Nicotin by Naya, this choice.
There's a whole realm of physics known as thermodynamics that covers the details of these losses in machines.
Income Sanricanala ya Kogachi, Dandanga to shield by your to see Ripaga Capsa, that under the Dershila Tenedating, and it to Nigumola Landru again, Netanchung Warwa, or Decolaya, and if something Kanza, Chitanda, to see Ripasa Tiga Capsa, Tandaganatan de Holaya, and it to the Trajuchi race.
Here we'll just look at the efficiency, which is this ratio of the work out versus the work in.
That under Tirengaso de la Lechu setting motor chickens, the Lechu setting caresana, and a Chilton Bigilecache, Chilton Bilican and a Pentro Yochuchundalecache, and it Tete, and a Nanju Leka, Domburg, Gush Jugi, and a Kugata de did workers at Dulce race.
It's a value that will always be less than 1 and you can often multiply it by 100 to express it as a percent.
다 되게 톱던데 같은 바나야 스틸이 총아요 바다 아니 게티처럼 게 자차게 남발랑 곰베치고요 바나 네 자기 줄데티 자차게 남발랑 자차게 남발랑 총기치는 그래스.
And sometimes we use a little symbol. It's like a little epsilon. I'm probably not drawing it right. And so we would say the efficiency is epsilon, which is equal to the ratio of work out divided by the work in.
참 삼라가 가지고 레처세 때 안에 되게 세시 epsilon세 세시도 이 카셜로지로 수도나 당가슴 카셜로지로 수도가 어떻게 선바지 안에 코가레세나 가지고 철동백이 자와 레카데다 안에 나운트 집백이 레카니기 또 세당 송거레스.
So these thermal losses, I guess we're not doing an example. I thought we had an example. Okay. So often some of this lost heat in a machine is sometimes absorbed by a liquid.
Yeah, it is in here. Tanda some like as you book that the new budget la to your new budget la what the journey that lago is some laya journey la big ranching your big new body and then as we share suit that which gets run jip is so langio is.
Some power plants that use the water to absorb the heat from the engines, turbines and things, they will take that hot water and pump it through nearby cities to distribute hot water and use that leftover energy in the city to warm it.
다양 가시게 단단한 수가 런던 사이트다 되나도라야 거기 런던 사이트라야 양 거기 다 주니딜라 때니 추초 자주 되게 아니 거가서 그래 런던에 다양 나 정책에 탈라요 빠나 정책에 나한테 추초 고토시스 거다 주딜라 때니 추초 주죠 고토시야다 아니 데레 현대 양고 다 정책에 나한테 고 주디 다 컴바가 나라야 아니 주지 주주지야지거와 어떻게 제대로 배치된 거です.
I grew up in South Florida where they just pumped this into the waters, but in the winter the water was warm and the manatees would come in and live in the warm water from the power plants.
What do you mean by manatees? Sorry.
Oh, they're big, huge mammals. They're known as sea cows. They're like hippopotamuses, but they only live in the water.
Okay. 다 그 뭐마 살롱청사데 단다 플로리다게 아니 소쇼토알라치 바 인스타 되게 많이 집단 거 그속에 다 라주 지거라 단다 두스 라주데 샤자크로 추그나들 러시아에서 추나 로피캅시 바나 다 공카인 바나디스 다 장모제 아니 디캅스 아니 다 초나나 되니게 다 나속에 보통거 소소 첨부들라도 와 나속 배치 초랑으로 된다 있어래 대수인 바이나 아니 지금 연코 단다가 추그나들이 죄르지 추티스 정보되기요와 어다 고수용어데 정보 되는 손이지 그래스.
So yeah, there's some photos of manatees. Yeah, many cities use this to help heat houses during the winter.
야 정치 가시게 인바이나 단다가 죄두스 라샤지 디페시탄데다 내 공칼라야 컴방나들이 내 차우조에 차로동알을 비슷하게스.
It's these things of recycling energy that is considered waste are things that humans need to take into account to help increase our efficiency of power plants.
단다 디라로 인바이나 데라 양아 수가 저크르근이 봐서 거기서 데인바이나 당가 수게 다 런던 사치 디나로 그 사체되게 그런 게 다 리처스 그러 다 리처티 아니 야 패트지고 알아야 제를 동아라 제로스 동아야기 체도 아니 단단 디나로다 쳤던 게 인바나다 툴가 친레서 그러 내가 되게 뉴아리 디리디 툴가 친레서 그는 뉴아리 디다 단다디 값을 드니 다 누구요와 데이터 아니 그 ngu shenpa tang yang na chiga karsu koreta gupa shendagi cheta pechu tang yo res.
There are many sources of energy, though, even though it's not a source because it's only changing from one form to another. Here are a few listed: solar, wind, water, nuclear, geothermal, which is hot water coming up and pushing turbines. Most all of these involve moving turbines of some sort, except for the solar.
Tadanda de la yang asu nubig jongkhong khachi shesha yes. Yang chigli samlu yang kota jiwa tangpa ne nubig jongkhong la takta chi dema de yang asu niba de chigla ya jora the jiju chi du go se go wa. Tadanda ne khachi la yes. Na chi nima res yenda long chuche de du che ani ola ya sansen la so sansen ti sa chau sa go ola du na chau ro wa. Ta de ge ne sansen de la tin de tanga chu chuchen de go ro wa. Chuchen de res tan de na ne Nima mahtopi shenda tsama gene nga soge karsugureta ko ati kobich konata shokor ti kobich gola tende te nga soge ani alogni ti tumbachi gorwa oteris.
I just realized I didn't have the English on here. There's examples. Hopefully they could read the Tibetan and we don't need to go through it in detail.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't remember what it was. Okay. Believe a few other examples. Oh, I've got it on the next slide. Oh, I had 2 slides in a row. Yeah, nuclear, geothermal, yeah, just various energy sources that we have. Most of them use turbines to generate electrical power using coils and magnets. That's something to be learned a bit later on in physics courses.
Dada de kapsirwa tsamagi tandagi nipon jongkon data ke sote shokorte korgochi wala tendete ane loni te tungi yoris ta loni te tumbi kapsi bana nga soge alok ke ta karsuge alok chapa te ane nga so delaten goro karsa te alok khalam gnane khablang gnane kura jabala tendete te ro khablang gnane kura jabala tendete nga soge ta alok ni bati tungi yorwa bana nga suga local rent on local new bati ge kote ane ya tanda tan decision marwa ibana ya tal hamsin jimalaya chigres.
So that finishes chapter 7 and I will reload the notes for chapter 8.
Tanda tege nga so ane tanda ti hamsen ganani hamsen Dumbati Tobai, Smitanasu, and St. Jepatelatag, yes.
So, chapter 8, we begin to talk about circular motion. There are many, many, many examples involving rotation or circular motion of things.
Desijate gormugun gushoyins gorgornatelem gushojachiwarwa otayins ane detan do yochugata patient hacham mambo yores.
So I forgot to reload one of my toys. This is a gyroscope. I'm gonna wind a string around the edge of it. Shouldn't take much more than another second. And it's a fun toy. I will now apply a force to the center of this and cause this central disk to spin.
Gyroscope cigarettes that they Himalaya at the Dermachitoa, that Dermatic soxing galaya, Netanda Kupachi Trigoa, Nikopati Tenchi Shuchi Jebai Bana, Next Himalayo Pig, and the Dermatic Crocodils.
It spins really fast, and it's kind of neat that it stands up on its own.
Dako Kuraja, the Hachan Jopuga Kura Jagio Restroa, and a Hachan Jopu Kura Jagio Kimatirwa, Dege ko ane Koya Landek doa Kuma Regum doa.
You might see it wobbles a little tiny bit. We call that precessing.
The Tantamlaya Kuka Segureta, this Chondro this chigres, Noctedo chigres, that Dela Yang Asuge, 양치 고게 가서 그랬대. 스테틱 지와도 그랬어.
And as it slows down, it then falls over because of friction caused it to slow down, but then it's no longer able to stand on its own because it's not spinning.
다단다 대값으로와 고다 지대 남게 걸로 고라자한테 지대 루스탄발라야 네고 다 그런 거는 야 랑트게요 말이 랑데트게요 말이스와 고 카슬라바나 고라자게요 말와 아니 단다 그런 거 고라자한테 지대 줘야돼 카리레스나 더식 펜드레스.
And you might be able to see it slowly slowing down. You might be able to see some of the motion in there. Sometimes the camera frame rates makes it looks like it's spinning backwards or forwards though.
다단도 지다 두고도 와. 고 실시 주고 통도거레스. 다 데이터 바이바나 거기 관계를 못 되지. 달로 코라자고스도 산산마 잘로 코라자고스도 지오레스.
It's always spinning in the same direction, but the frame rate of computer cameras makes it look like it changes direction.
다 저기 임바나고 초치라야 다 코라자고 임바나야 가서 벌치기 고 벌기 단 진트마 그텔라테데티 산산마 yela kuraja sansamala yona kuraja chulo tongres.
There's other fun toys that involve circular motion, tops.
Da shenda chinga su tops lash tokati.
You might have seen these are kind of newer things these days. I think they call them fidget spinners.
Yan tim da yan shenda da tin sangi ko ate yang simutsia chidwa ko kuraja ga simutsia.
So loud on the table. You can feel, if you ever play with these, you can experience strange forces from them. And that's will be discussed a little bit later on here called torque.
Tadanda chechu te ya lagpanone ko kurado jam nyongnya yo pa bana chechu ko kar chogresena de la ya ani shu kense chi choron ko chogres de la tani. Delatani shu kanse chogres ta shu delaya ani jushu service jushu de ani des jelaya motochigins.
And you're probably familiar with frisbees. They involve circular motion as well.
The frisbees le hansu se sta de hansu chichine singo chres de bayna ko de kapse yam ko ta go moving go shu chigorwa de ko kapse jongo yores.
So the slide, the presentation slide is trying to illustrate a thing that it's kind of rare these days, vinyl records that rotate.
Tatanda de gala chechu tensha jute ko kura jago bana ta 300 ha chon nyong res ta ngoma na ngoma ge te chto nga su ga ngi de la ya datir tsha ta datir sena ngoma kusu ga datinda ane de gala ya ta chusha yo ro ti sta bala ya te nga su ga datit tang ga do ta otiris.
So I've got a small turntable here. It doesn't work all that great because I have to hand crank it, but I can have a little rotating turntable here.
Tatanda ngarang la de la techi is rata kortak wa gura khoyo chugi ta choksis gura ta korchosna lu kortak chi is ta de ko abadus gura japana ko kala kala nguchu tang do.
We can put the frisbee on it and rotate it.
Da de gantre ko smutsia frisbee ti shat yan ko gura jana dikores.
It's just a little irregular because I actually printed this from a 3D printer.
This chuma kaso chodi chama sonro chiores kasila baina tandagi te roa kortote korange asuge tate chosum sigro chocha sendenge ane te chiyo roa kaso grata per jaga chiyo roa 3D printing sigro 어때 초차 선dengi ane parlo jagaige yuchitinda doa tinado peche tangdeta zo shajitinda yes.
So these objects that we are looking at here that I was able to bring, they all spin as one solid object. So every single spot on it completes one rotation in the same amount of time.
Tatanda ngi chetsula tembege yubute takgange ane ko chashi re ge ngone ro ane ko 그 차시 참마스고 다 레레레레 문에 다 바인바나 고때 뒤ing 이진치나텔레 네 고라 같이 자고 메세게 체티 정말 집바시 총레스 이스타발라 고 참마로 차시 때 레레레레 문에 다 바인바나 참마다 고가 뉴 도도 지인비무라야 아니 고가서 그랬다 고라자고 레티스탄발라야 차시 레레레네 다 바인바나야 고게 가서 그랬다 고라자게 체치고와 So the
old records that we used to have, pretty common, they spun at this weird rate that we called revolutions per minute. And it turned out they spun at 33 1/3 revolutions per minute.
그 코르세치거라 춥사우치거레스 타코 더마스틱나텔레 코라카소자그레스나 숨치소 숨땅 숨자기 지자그레스
Interesting thing, there's many different ways to talk about the units at which something rotates. RPMs or revolutions per minute is just one of them.
다단다 델라양코 다 고라지라기 고게 체디 요르와 티 차야기 제등아 저 지시 망부 요레스 다단다디 가서 karmarina korakasujagrese ashtoga mandi mana ditinang sijikangchires.
We could consider degrees per minute as well, where one revolution, you might be aware that one, and I'll just write rev, one revolution is one full rotation, so it's 360 degrees.
Tatanda di kapsuro yang asuge kuge kura kuragi juksetela korsetela yang asuge zishi shenda chikami kandastra yore sena ani degree or surtsege degree or what degree ti ani karma kasu goshase tige goyati na yores hola ya tishajuge gogoti lekwa maradanga asuge degree tayo atire tat tige gala ya gela tishajuti revolution sena rangko kanza chatsan chiksi gore ro kura chatsan chik Kura chatsan chikanana ngachu surcheti gatsresena surcheti chechugita chengres ngachu kura kanza chitsugu yorwa kura kanza chitsibaina dela surcheti surchesimbiata tuchtamares degrees in the.
So I find it interesting that 33 1/3 is weird. How many degrees does one of these albums rotate in 1 minute?
다 다다스타 숨치서 숨다 숨차게 시기세나 karmachkanatele dinner loses tabalaya cancer shifts duchi marshaswa that is tabalaya ani karmachiknalaya ko degree katsuchi kobudu se telaya ngasu tabaina
33 1/3 is equal to 100 thirds.
나한다 숨치서 숨동 숨차게 시기세데 아니 관계도 총고레스나 숨차게 자동 총고요레스.
And I'll add the units there, revolutions per minute.
And
then to convert this to degrees per minute, we would multiply it by 360 degrees per one revolution.
Tandanga tsuge tsishidi pa juragi chete karichigore senanga tsuge ta rankor kanza chik jabaina kora kanza chik jabaina degree katsoris gwa ta wola ya rev la na rankor sugo kora sagorwa kora chik kanza jabaina ani degree sunjata tichiores.
So you might see the revolutions would cancel each other out.
Ta danda de kapsunga tsuge kora se tencha panchima pachagadwa.
And then 360 now is easily divisible by 3. So that would just yield 120 over here. So now all we would have to do is multiply 100 by 120.
And
which is simply 12,000. Oh, wait, am I messing that up? Nope. 12,000 degrees per minute.
Tadanda dine istambale thamang asudil hebate karma chikana tele degree ani chichenye tonkura jagdus.
So the 33 1/3 really is a pretty even number.
Nesim so sum tangasum jachik sachira de pete tangate kense chitusirwa ko kasubare danga zuge chatang rawadan tela samadang bana kense chiredus.
We just need to look at it in units that are different or might make more sense.
That is the Balaya Tela and Chanda Chilenga so Kasure. Zishi and Chitab Duta, Tina Karqual and Dutayana, Sulaji, Quado, Ted, which Mulaya, and Zunaya dus Kade.
So when it comes to rotational motion, we have to talk about two different speeds.
That Dandanga Suge, the Kasure, Krongut, Yana Dandagi, Gormug and Guchun Duko like Hitcheshapi by Narwata, Gorgolamla, Hitcheshapu, Cape by Nangatsuge, Semando and Nicola Kitcheshares, and Josemando and Nicola Kitcheshares.
One is what we've been talking about the entire time here in physics, which is the linear speed. But for rotational motion, the linear speed is known as tangential, the speed perpendicular to the distance from the center at that spot.
That and the Dinane and Joseph Chicares and Joseph Chitelayang and Sugia and a Tangtagan Joseph Series, that Tangtagan Joseph and Namjanga to the Tanda Patashe Chuti Sama Tangtagan Joseph. You may not Tanda de Capsa, a Gormu and Gushur, what a Krongo Ditan, JB Capsa, ne Tangtagan Joseph Saticares and a Chetican Joseph Series, that Chetican Joseph Saticares and a de Kuranta. Tanda Kuraja Gorgo Chirdo, Gora Jagi Gorgo Tigi, and Suge Kuge Kimani Talayan Kure Changchi Chigua, Chet Santi Chigua, Chet Santi Changchaimba, Roa, Changchang says Tambalaye, Surguch Tamba Tokioroa, Changchang Yembigi, and a Tiganlaya, Tombigi, and Kuga, Josetela Kugures, Nasutara de Capsa, and a Chetin Josette.
Yeah, tangent means it doesn't point towards the center at all. It's perfectly sideways for that location.
That and I get Dicas Tetis, Carisagores, and if Kuraja taking you put to get Tiwag Shola Teo Maris, one of Sede, Katimba, Tiwani Yankore, Changshe trigger, what Changshe Telaya, and it Changchang Mula Yores.
This would be the variable would be the familiar V that you have seen thus far in physics.
That and then they can so cool touch Savag Saptanticale, Lana Chisu Tanda Tonsha research or take some materials.
And if we were talking about the units of it, we would think in terms of the regular units, meters per second, kilometers per hour, feet per minute, whatever you're used to.
That and then they can say Tetu Yotseg is the Shilla Samatang by Man, Namjanga to some Tonga Tiris, Kacherina Mitagatsu Dure, any Karsure, Titsuna Telekiloma to Katsudugres, Titantilla Sopasama Kunadugres.
Then the other speed, when it comes to rotational motion, is known as, well, the rotational speed, or sometimes it's called the angular speed.
Tandanga Suge, Gormugan Gushu Capsuge, Jose Genda Chicariores, Samsung Atsugo, Krongu Jose Segres, Kronguta, Kuraji Kogu, Guguyorwa, or Tegan Jose Segre, and a Yamna Samsung had to a circuit Jose Segres, Kukachila Pan and Jurandu, circuit in Jurandu, or Tean Segres.
It would be the angle through which the disk moves in a certain amount of time.
That the Karsagore Senaroa did so Nijin chicken Nalaya, and it and the Lapana Yopigi Termati and you go Suchaka Suchilanguchutangu Seteris.
So it's a bit harder to visualize the angular speed, but it's through what angle you move in a given time interval.
한다 단다가 속에 스쿠군 적세세한테 삼루당한테 가르스고다 삼루나는 차에 지스 카보요레 심바나야 삼루당한테 가리 삼루당 거래세나 뒤층 2cm가나라야 스쿠라야 지로카츠 우치테그도세 테레스.
The units for rotational or angular speed is sometimes given in degrees per second. It could be revolutions per minute.
한다 단다기 가수 그런거는 역세다야나 스쿠군 적세디가 값에 지시디 참참라야 가리나 테그레스나 아니 거샤치크나텔레 쿠라카수 시작그레사가우다 카마치크나텔레 쿠라카수 자그레티 셴다야 카마 거샤치크나텔레 아니 그 가서그레 스쿠군 적가선도 그레세 지시 넘버 디나도 가틀레 탕고레스.
There's another unit that I don't believe is covered in this textbook, but it is known as radians per second. That is a very useful unit for the rotational or angular speed.
단다게 디캅스야 가속에 그런 것이 적세다야나 스쿠군 적세기시형 비캅스 디캅스 가속에 지시식 못치면도 스와 단다가 록테티가 나와야 야 셴데 게 록테나라야 못치메 바칸스라야 코 페추 당야 펜토포요에 지거레 스티커레나 그처리나들이 아니 스쿠 레디언 같으레서 지거레스.
The advantage of a radian is it's strange. Even though we talk about it in terms of being an angle, it's really a dimensionless unit. It's like a measurement of a rotation, but has no dimension even though we talk about it.
한다 단다게 그 radians에 남진 바나가 수고양 그 다 circular 슬랑울라 샤가 circular 샤가 되다야 대세자가게 나바티다 용그레스 임바이나야 ngasu radiance delaya ngasu ge dio maris ta dimension system balaya shukchate yo maris.
And you might be familiar with the conversion from radians to degrees or degrees to radians, and it is that there is 2 pi radians in a complete circle. So that means there are 2 pi radians is the same as 360 degrees.
다 지치나체서 되게 양코 지시파 주자게 내던들라야 지치나체서 델라야 자주요기를 있을 당한 속에 지시가 나네로와 2 pi radian 2 pi 때 아니 degrees 인데 다 지시던 성거요레스.
Sometimes we abbreviate radian because it's kind of a long word to write out. Sometimes we abbreviate it as just simply rad.
Ako radiance istambalaya ko tsiring pudoa istambalaya samlaya ngasu teaching update on that digging out the red set is
just showing you in case you ever see it.
and get it to 지 통요바동 때문에 타임바나티 지 무트치치 때문에스.
Then it turns out for rigid objects, things that don't fall apart when they're rotating, that the entire object rotates through the same angle in the same amount of time. So the entire object has the same angular or rotational speed.
다 단단한 수능이 뭐 차보지긴 바이나스와 차즈근이 본데는 오신 바이나 뉴보 되게 차시 참아 아니 뒤인치나라야 고 슬쿠근 조세데 시파친로요레스.
But they experience different tangential or linear velocities depending upon how far it is away from the rotational axis.
아하. 다 이나양 스와고 슬쿠근 적세데다 식바레다 이마이나양 코데 단단 유보티게 대화레 타랑로라텐데 디스와 유보티 땅 유보티게 단단데게 고고티게 대화레 타랑로라 다 창뜨게 강라야고 기말레 대화레 타랑로라티데데 아니 코게 단단가 속에 최특근 족쇄식으로 최특근 족쇄티 만들어res.
And you might be familiar with this because you might know what the circumference is of a circle in terms of how far it is away from the center.
지지나처럼 그 학구였지레스 땅아 속에 단단가 골골침바나 골골 되게 아니 거기 타코랑서식으로 거기 타코랑서 때 아니 거기 기말이 타랑로라 때문에 때려와 아니 거기 첩을 가서 지금 때 지지나처럼 수신 거지레스.
And for each point at different distances from the center, they have different radii.
따로와 그 디완이 그 처만도라이 차라야 디완이다 거기 가서 그래. 디완이 철로라서 그러다 디완이 처만도 그 참라야 아니 거기 장식의 랑타티야 만들어레스.
So if I draw different colored dots on the frisbee that have different radii, in the same amount of time that it takes them to rotate around once, they travel different distances.
다다다 대간에 가는 게 고천천만도 간라야 대게 장식의 간라야 딱 만들어지 샤이스 딱 장신이 거기에 그 디완이 거기 랑세만도 만들어와 다 대값을 그 지정이 진치근에 고라다 자대 집어자고 임바이나야 차레레기 르지지하게 거기 장타치거와 어디 만들어레스.
So the equation for the circumference of a circle or a spot at a certain radius is given as c equals 2 pi times the r, and the 2 pi here is basically because that's how many radians there are in a full circle.
단단하게 값을 C세의 circumference 골목의 타코랑스지로 골목 타코랑스 때 값을 선거에서나 2 pi the r 주고 선거에서 근데 값을 2 pi 세대 가려는 골목식 나라야 골골식 나라야 가지고 subset radian 2 pi 요가 선거에서.
And because you're familiar with the definition of linear speed as being the distance that you travel in a given time interval, it turns out that the distance that you travel in a rotational motion is actually going to be the circumference for that location in the given time interval.
단단한 값으로 제수가 상로양 지시당바인바는 가축의 정택이 적세지거로 정택인 적세대 가축의 그 뒤응이 진치가나들이 장탄지와 가축이 침바인바딘바 단단한 드레스 단단한 값은 가축은 적세대 값을 다 골골게 가나 요축 차티 가축인 로샤세 딘바나 골골티기 그런 거 타코랑스지거로 단단한 장살란지와 같이 중도셔야 돼 타코랑스 작업에서 2 by rs 니 티지 고엘에 뒤쪽 같이 중고셔야 티티가 보는 거예요.
And here I was sort of sneaky in that I changed the appearance of the T for time. Now that it's a capital T, that's referring to the time for the object to complete one rotation. And that's sometimes referred to as one period.
Yeah. 단다 대오라야 그 단다 체스가 다바이네 계란 대바라텔라야 티지어로 티데 그 순순 저당사에서 올라야 당보텔라야 티 총총로도가 2 pi r 요그 티디 챔버로도가 니스탄불데 저당사에서 단다 대게 니캅텔라야 나 가르치는 헤브레스나 티 챔버데게 아니 세라야 아니 뉴보데 고라 차창칭 자야라 거비기 뒤인티 철고요 에스타 티델라야 참살랑아 지금 비르스나 아주 코리인색이라 코리인 고라치 코리기 인세딜라야 티치와 디샤가 비를 때는 코리인색이스.
So it turns out that I just realized on the previous slide I did not give the variable for the angular speed. That is the symbol omega is what it looks like a W, but it's adopted from the Greek alphabet and it's an omega.
단단히 값은 아주 슬크 조세게 천도대가레스나 오메가레스 Greek decision is languages 고조다 다바이네 W 도지 요레 심바나 야 kuya omega is.
And so there's a relationship between the linear or tangential speed, v, and that of the rotational or angular speed, omega. And that expression is that the linear speed is equal to the radius for the spot we're considering times omega.
Tatanda nga suge tetikun jokse veda ani surkun jokse omega ni chaga parola yan ryo is that parola ryo pati kari songresena ani nga su surkun jokse vedi ani surkun jokse masa tetikun jokse vedi ani surkun jokse omega te ani ta ko ani kala do se gi kun se churo ta da de ke se changche do changche de gi jwa dong song is.
And those of you that know that I'm sneaky, you might notice that I can combine these two equations and recognize that omega equals a particular ratio.
Tatanda de kapsi chesuge chichina chesuge tongyosigres de la natsuge omega te yang kwa dutsengi chinch tang sungo yoba chichina chesu tongyosigres.
So we can look at omega is equal to 2 pi r over t. No, I'm sorry, v is 2 pi r over t, and that v is equal to r omega.
Tanda nga so gan la ya v 2 pi r t chwa go chutan songo yorwa ho la ya v r omega tan songo do.
You can look at these two equations and then you can see that r omega is equal to 2 pi r over t, or that omega is equal to 2 pi radians over t.
Ta nyamtsin de ni nyam te chiba imana nga so ge r omega t 2 pi r divided by t gi go chutan songo yorwa r me pe tang bai na ne omega t 2 pi radians t ani nga so ge korean gi go ba t chwa de go ba to songo yores.
So you can actually rearrange this equation. If you know the angular speed, you can figure out how long it takes it to complete one rotation.
Tenita chorong ge chikar ha ko resena tandan data latin de tirwa ko kete chorong ge ane sukung joksete ha ko yo baina ne chorong kari chit kresena ko kurachi jagala ya ane jingal songo yo patis jat kres.
Okay, I might be losing you with the math. So let's back up and visualize the tangential or linear speed versus the angular or rotational speed.
Tatanda nga so chichina ansi de chesu chichina go thom go chi yuchires tatanda nga so ge ko ane surku ken joksete tan tangte ken jokse chigoro otte ni chakanda imetage ins.
So here's a little interactive that shows a ladybug on a turntable.
Tatanda de gala nga so kortok inju kortok chika gala ya ane budi yores te nga so tage ins.
I'm going to change the angular velocity of the turntable, and it will draw a vector attached to the ladybug to show what the linear velocity is for the ladybug.
Tatanda de kapse ngarangi tanda ge butiro de ga shapa na de ge karichigres na ko gala ya ane vectors na nga so chombro ngyu ge nato chiton gres ta de ge korangi tanda budi ge ane karsubre surku ke masida 장택인 족체 지거로 장택인 족체 띠까지 면동고 요레스 그정 코스된 거.
So you should be able to see the little green arrow attached to the ladybug or ladybird that shows the tangential or linear velocity.
다단다 되게 강라야 부디 강라야 나 지금 나타 정크스도가 나타 정크 되게 단다 부디게 아니 대청고요 레스가 속에 장택이 적체 다양나 제특은 적체 정고요 레스.
Now I can drop the beetle onto, as I move the beetle, you can see the velocity vector as well, but that's just me dragging it in a particular direction.
다다다데 양코 뎀브젠다스도 비로디 디 야마 템바인바나 네코 코가라 양코 나토테 땡도 안데 야마 템비 값을 코가 시 데벨롭된 데이터 안에 조세게 가수됐던 거です.
What do you think the length of the beetle's velocity vector will be if I were to drop it right on the very edge of the turntable?
Keti standard birugi bushtoga tanda benyoatiroa ani tanda korto degi tadila shabaina ani kogi tanda gita tantegi joksegi tanda gi teorwata chomborging yu nato tega rangsete bu jenda marbushtoga ta bu tegi ta durba tegi nato da durbaina kepa katsochiyo chiresamgudus.
We can assume that these segments inside the turntable, they all appear to be of the same unit. So this could be 2 units out to the ladybug. And so then the edge of the turntable would then be how many units?
This tambalaya and a corto ticket talaya and it's Chikasoris, the Tanga Katsuchis. Kasores, son rochesa.
Shirishi.
4.
Which is how many times larger than the ladybug's radius?
Double.
So then what would the linear velocity for the beetle be at the edge?
That touch double like those getting also Tanda Bush to watch Lona Chugubody. But Serbote and a cook Talasha by a below the Talasha by a cookie Josete and a bird and a Kimalo Chugubuti Josegi that disagorda, taking Josena, taking Josete, Dabcaso in Saresa.
Dani.
Damnire.
Double.
Indeed.
Dani. 4 by T.
Karanjaresa.
So if you look at the length of that vector, you can see that it's basically twice as long as the ladybug's.
Tanda churang get de la tapa in a kuna your pig and data transela tapa in bana, need than it is.
One thing I did not show you here, I turned off the acceleration vector. Does anybody know in which direction these bugs or insects are accelerating?
Tanda de la ya anengi chesula titi temes tigalaya, nurnungi that of the temes. And it chesu do some tambaina kogi Ganla Poppy, Nununchi or Nununti Nununga Kashako answers.
You said the Kachuchibarisha.
Gender, one says some directions the velocity, the linear velocity.
You know the psychology matters.
And another
To the
person
tangential
says,
direction.
La.
Post direction, same as.
Kiloyures.
Kila, yeah.
What is Shugi Kapjo Talaparido? Tension, Koran Tensei Chol. Tension.
Some are saying toward the ground, some are saying outward on the turntable.
We've got to be careful of down or up on the turntable because that depends, are they at the top or are they at the bottom? So that could be in different directions at different locations.
And also one said towards the center.
Toward the center, okay. So it turns out this is, we're kind of heading this way. We haven't covered it yet, but it turns out they are both accelerating toward the center.
아하. 다단다 아수디 단도 대시자요 맞다 대시자기 있어. 에 거기 뉴런티 니차가 뉴런티 TV 쇼라야 때데요. this.
Those vectors are so short, I'm going to speed up the angular velocity so the acceleration vectors become visible. Be careful, don't get sick.
아하. 다 단다디 값에 가서 천천히 있단발라 고가를 적세티 천천히 있단발라 통과도 와라. 가서 그 연능기 티 통과도 연능티 TV 쇼라 때데요. this. 단단히 티 진조가 당기 있다. 진조도 있단발라에 통과레스. 나야. 엔델라타 데튼 구마나 지로지스.
So they are both accelerating towards the center. This is a special kind of acceleration that we will see a little bit later on in today's lecture that we call centripetal.
다 대양코 니차기 뉴런티 TV 쇼라테 되어레스 와 대양코 뉴런기 뉴런 땅야 슈간에 기시션 스탄발라야 티사믹세 만다오치레스 텔랑아 속에 대초 대위 대와라 초피기 슈사지고 레스로 대초페 뉴런도 대초 슈사지고 레스팅아 속에 다다 디스젤랜드 시작이스.
Turns out gravity provides this centripetal acceleration for spacecraft that are orbiting the Earth.
다다 델라텐데 데티와 다다게 단다게 슈타야나 뉴런 델라텐데 내가 저다 바나나 요피기 코커나나 요추게 아니 그 코커 꾸라자고로 어때떨레키 데탈라 네 단다게 고라 델라텐데 데티로 고라자발라텐데 데티 아니 고출라 텐슈티 퉁기요레스.
Okay, we'll move on. So in this figure, I originally had a kind of a question of the green arrows over here on this album. What would those arrows be trying to indicate? Are those indicating the tangential or linear speed, or are they trying to indicate the angular speed?
다 단다게 remote 왼쪽 대가라 양이 디지트샤 예스와 다타가 정코니지스 다타 정코티니게 가리 청구요사레스 거기에 술쿠근 적세 청구요사레 양나 테티근 적세 청구요사레스.
Distant in survey. Linear motion.
단다 연쇼사 발 A 나나요 주게 정코티니게 가리 청구요사 위 청구요사레 오메가 청구요사레.
With channel velocity charo omega.
We say thing as tangential speed timber wa tangential speed sana thetikin jose timba. Thetikin jose chongore surkun jose chongore sa.
Surgogin jose chong.
It thinks this angular speed.
Okay, I would argue that it's a little vague as to what they're trying to indicate there. Because it's curved, yes, I would agree that that looks like an angle.
단다게 티게 그거 전달라티 데티나 그게 카스우민두스 안테간탈 허퍼드 그거 다토데 그 쿠쿠트샤두스 쪽쪽 쿠쿠치트샤스 데스타발라야 나라인 바이나 데코게 슬큰 적세 성도 삼사레스.
Both of those show the same angle, so that could be angular speed. Maybe if the vectors were drawn straight.
때문에 코로나 니차게 슬크게 세대야 치버치장 치정치바레스 데스타발라야 슬큰 적세 성도레스. 게팅아 속에 아니 첨벌근 요부지고라 나타티 카텔레 지바이나 두스 단다길레 치트스마 카테트스마.
There'd be less confusion if they were drawn straight like that.
게티 두스 카텔레 지오바이나 에네 군요테 뇽아요 그레스.
Usually we indicate angular speed by this symbol over here, with the album that you can see a couple bugs riding on it, where we have this little circle drawn in the air above it.
다 집중가 속에 아니 술국은 적세대 간의 성그레스나 드네로치 성그레스 대 마야가 속에 다드르티 간라야 부카시지요 바체로 아니 그게 간라스고라 당가 속에 대 마는 쿠쿠라 작사게 소싱게 퇴라네 그 고고도 위치 트기도로 한다트요 지지가 대게 쿠카리 성그레스나 아니 술국은 적세대 춤바치그레스.
So in that case, there should be no confusion that that is referring to the angular speed, that it's going in a particular direction.
다데 값인 바나 거기에 가서 술국은 적세 선거요 바티 콜라야 는 군역 대미도스고 아니 가송이 진실을 두고요 빠천도 왔어.
Now some might remember, hey, wait a minute, speed can be a vector. How can the angular speed also be a vector?
야 가시게 틴다삼 그레스와 did you say speed cannot be
So it can be an angle. We call it velocity then.
okay.
And angular speed can also be referred to as angular velocity. How can we define it as being a vector?
다 가시게 매나 속에 가스고에다 밑세세 스탄발라야 아니 총벌 뮤지레스와 네 값에 가속에 야 술국근 유세앙세기도 술국근 적세앙세기도 데라야 engasuge chomborgung yubuchi bala kanasndegi nas.
So when I spin this fidget spinner, maybe I'll stop sharing so we can see me bigger. I forgot to do that earlier. So if I spin this fidget spinner, I'll try to spin it slowly. I believe to you, it looks like it's spinning clockwise.
Yes.
But to me, it looks like it's spinning counterclockwise.
That this did the Kukuraja Bambana, Nechetsulaya, Nayati, and a Kanado Chinangres, and a Nasugeta, Ikorjago Panangres, even a Nalata by no Yonkorjagatus.
Because I'm on the other side, it looks different to me.
But
a way that we can get out of an argument about this is we have this rule in physics that we use our right hand. And if I allow my fingers that can curve in a circle to point in the direction that this is rotating, then my thumb actually ends up pointing at me, no matter whether it's you on that side doing the right hand curl of the fingers.
That is that choke on it then anticores, that cookie shola de tan lapayuati to Skaku, Lapay, Zimutik as a Kura jumping shoksuko and bana, Timongi tensati roa, got a give metit and cookie tempatitan. And it's Cheloni Chetu Shojenda Netago, Chetu with the Bambana, Timo Tentante, Chupa Tengio, Tensate.
So your thumb points into the screen where you see me, or it points at me, and we are then in agreement.
That undertakes a Chetu Tionting, Nishola Tensha, Nishola Tensis Tambalaya, Tandanga Shirsagia, Newting on a Patengio, Restis Tambalaya. Tasama church Tagu the Imbana Nasugi, Tion Tensate, Stigimba, Nasu Kilenchigures.
And as crazy as it sounds, the direction of your thumb perpendicular to the direction this object is rotating, that is the direction of the angular velocity vector.
That and I churangi Tiwong Tensachurua, Tiwong Tensachurua, Tiwong Tensate, and a Koge Josechurua, 거기 욕세 때라야 장창지래요. 레스 카트가 수제 구치탐바트요. 레스.
So we follow the right hand rule. The left-handed people, sorry, we use the right hand.
아하. 네 라파 연바 페시 당이 미텐데 요바네 공다스 단당가스 라파 요 페시 당 그레스.
Okay, we'll go back to the lecture here.
Can I ask you one follow-up question on that?
Yes, please.
You said the speed is perpendicular to your thumb, but you didn't say in which direction though.
The direction your thumb points. Like as you imagine your thumb is like an arrow pointing in that direction. That is the direction of the angular velocity.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so this is kind of a thought question that if we had a bar on a turntable and it's rotating and we put a marble on it and have the turntable rotate, the marble is going to roll from the center towards the edge and eventually fly off. Which of these choices down here, A, B, C, or D, represents the path the marble will leave the turntable?
다 단다디가 생각을 kortogo 거지. sta 대강라야 kortoga 강라야 트션지샤로 트션지샤 전에 고꾸라자겠지. 아니 단다디기 그런 게 기말라로 korto디기 기말라야 아니 셰두 시시지샤요레 시시지샤요레 sta 두 셰르티샤바네 고꾸라제기 셰르티 칼레 탈라야 타니 사두그레스와 탈라도 네 타니 통그레스 통비 값은 아니 그 람카 관계를 조사했다. L 조사래, B 조사래, C 조사래, D 조사래.
I can't quite demonstrate it here because my desk is uneven and I can't spin it fast enough.
다들 값을 아니 도시 응용부 말샤 대강라야 네고 고라자가도야 족부슈자트면 두스.
So imagine the turntable is actually rotating at a pretty good speed. Not insano fast, but just a decent speed.
다고 족세 강삼지그 간에 고라자고요 바삼탄 치스. Do you want to know the answers?
See what they think the answer would be when the ball leaves the turntable. Yes.
제수 가리삼고도 스로와 단다 폴로티 아니 족세기 타니 마르사비 값스로와 고 람카 A 두사레 B 두사레 C 두사레 D 두사레 강게삼고도 사 제수 라발라 데요로 A B C D 세테 쇼고도 라바요
요래
yeah inda
요래
they have like a B C D card they can just show up and see.
Oh, they do. Here, wait,
Yeah.
I will stop sharing my, wait, should I stop sharing my screen so we can see them?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
You can just pin them and you can see a bigger screen. 야, 다리베 야이다. 쯔, 니, 숨.
Okay, so mostly blue. What letter? I can't see the letter on the blue.
Blue is D, right? Yeah. Tela 수에 바산의 지에 주 zonda 가르래도 대전도
땡겨도 만차와 에다 드리
Mostly are D and there are few A's. These are the only two options.
So D and A, that's it. Oh no. So it turns out it's neither of those.
Data erdo asa damka data erdo. Damka data erdo pesachas. Tenye kayon la maris.
So let's see. At the moment the ball leaves the turntable, it's going to have a tangential speed going in the forward direction there. So that is the speed that would be D. But because it rolled out to the edge of the table, it also has some component outwards. And so that's the A group. So the D group was the tangential speed. The A group was the radial speed of the ball rolling out. But we have to add together these two vectors.
다 단다디 값은 가지고다 뉴셀라 답이 값은 뉴셀이 총봉요로와 초세 가서 댕겨로와 아니 다 치카레스 스탐발라야 그 탈라 두스 스탐발라야 단다 가지고 띠요로와 테트킨 족세띠요로와 그게 다 당긴원은 대시제 샤주고 테트킨 족세나 장테킨 족세띠 그마다 디세띠르도와 디기 쇼스만 두그레스와 테트데 여 바로 그 구레자발라테네 바로와 이 현대 치카레스는 그 지만이만 그래 기만이 탈라야 버들땅 두거와 버들땅 두스탐발라야 그 파쇼라야 뉴세치요로와 대체수 단다 에스니 드레샤스 이번에는 그 볼루티간라야 아니 뉴세만도 아니 택비여서 아니 체수그때 더메 템바제샤스
Okay, so let's try again. Let's see what we get. I'll stop sharing and we'll try to see what they go with next.
야, 지은이슴.
Uh-oh. A mix of yellow and green.
Yep. A majority are green and there are, I think, 25% are
Which
green B dash, yellow the C dash.
okay, so green is B, yellow is C.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things of once all forces are removed from an object, so the instant it leaves the table, there are no forces acting on the ball. And when you have no forces acting on an object, in what state of motion is it going to move in?
단단데 제수 드라시 땅에 있다. 저한테 가르세나 블루티 아니 그 가서 그래. 블루티 단다게 다 코르토델리 트래픽이 제라야. 로. 제마 타테 코간라야 슈포요 마레스와. 나 뉴턴 탄tin 이바데 상탄 거더라와. 나 텐슈라야 산우마탄 로데 가서. 나 슈셴다 포고요 마레 슈포고요 마레스. 다 슈마포나 아니 거기 무초지하게 네법티 가릴라 데그레스.
And it's only a hint to get you to the right answer.
Tati lenti rayagi koraya da kudach tepati yes.
No force, no acceleration.
Rada tanda de kasenyo noe yo maris, shuyan yo maris. Ane ku ngushuga nevapti karela degres. B inside way, C inside that.
Oh, we're gonna, so make them flash the cards one more time.
Okay, let's go. Some.
I think it's mostly C and still few green.
So a couple of green, mostly C. Okay. This is fun. Okay, so the answer is indeed C. When you add those two vectors together, it will be one in between and be perfectly straight. Because we're assuming we're looking down on this from above, so it just shoots off in a straight line, leaving it. B means there's still some sort of force on it, causing it to curve that way. But once it leaves the turntable, there's no more force pushing on it, which was from the rod.
Tanda de kapsero nga su khatebe jela shu mese korwa ta tin stambala tanda nga su gangi de la tabaina gangi de kapsa nga su ge chombor gingi bo ni dombe baina koroni ge domtatik katim bana khati chim tang thim go ris tin stambala ya ane ko ta tanda sigi shugla ya wa kun rusati khatkula dugres.
Another problem or concept question very much related to this is one where if you have a ball on a string and swing it around in a circle, wrong way, and then if you cut it in a certain spot, what happens to the motion of the ball?
다 게티로와 다단다 기라이 라팔라 쿠레자가도가 쿠레자기요레스 참치라 저런 게 아니 디 쿠바디 제바임바나 볼로긴 고초테 간다스도 그레스 내가 가서게 데도도와 가서 urcha요 urcha urdu로 urdu
우르도
urdu tabaina urdu ta digi gelage din dawrdowa and in like in the Tibetan community, especially in the nomadic areas, we have that slingshot.
Yep.
And
so so you're used to
they're-
when you want to shoot the rock that way, you've got to release it when it's on the side going towards it.
kandas dure sada urdu chitanda ko do sare
코르세 초들 두구두에 당기데 더보 임베서리시도
rada khathu dugro ra gelage shala kala na chorunga loyati rada yu paina yu ya loyati ne isho ko suni lo pain paina na loyati tan dalga khathu dugro
알레 지나 당기 리버데 다다 두고 여러와네
te tada dugro
알레 르드 잠바야 라웨파 디네파 르샤그레스 에네 이네 르드 디네 로이나 르드 데파 두그레스 고레
re ta gelage sa suni sursuna ta jase ta surse guchu thambag samda ijimara suni lo paina loyati tan dalga dugro korwa
Nyezena de korken la rale sarigi. Korken la rale sar.
karchine kandase
Korken gawa chola shudu yeben de shol do shara.
it thinks it depends on the person because in whichever direction the person aims, it will go there.
Oh, that's careful. Yeah, it's so if I wanted to launch this at you, I have to release it over here on the side when the ball is going straight for you. So I mean, it depends on which direction you want to go, but the linear or tangential speed, when that is pointing at what you want to hit, that's the moment you have to release it. If I released it when it was between us, it's going to go that way and not hit you at all.
Te kapsunga suge kugen joksela ya samlatang godo jokse samlatang te
So
ane korong go ta chorong go igi trusa te la ya malhe gung la ya ne lapa ne logo go wa wa shinyu trusa malhe ngol ne ke te chorong ta chorong shinyu tru khatyo shinyu tru ane khatyo lepi chamla ya ane ku lapa ne lo bain ba na ane sula dosa gwas
So little different than this bar on the turntable problem.
this ga suge tanda go korto tange polo te tang this mando res
So I'll circle C.
see tanda de gelage soya de ko songa su ko korto tange polo te ta mando res nga su urcha bando urcha ge do te la ya ko chlola do ge nyurse yo maro ko de gorwa ko chukse te na chuk de gorwa be mare Korea te nga su ta kuraja ge nyurse te ma shio maro te tamato su gresa
Okay, so we'll move on. So next bit is kind of an application of this rolling motion of objects.
ta tanda nga su ge tan de kare sena ane kurungu de la ya pecho kare tanga yo meti konda shijagins
So if you have a cup and you roll it across a turntable, it's going to follow a curved path.
ta kete choran la ya ane proachi yo pache poate ane kete nga su ge korto chika ga la ya kure ja pa na khu gan rosa lam ka te chokso chi du restus
So it's a kind of a question of why does the cup follow this curved path?
ta draw kare reses tamala ya 포화대 두수 있단발라 그 람카 조소시 두고도스 가르치는 두고 요레스 도와드레스.
And what does it mean about the speed of the different ends of the cup?
따티기 타마텔라야 아니 쿠게 다 포화대기 다 니니스고로 다야나 땅땅 시암니샤기 족세대기 만로 임바대기 가르친 거레스.
And it should raise the question of, well, which speed are we talking about? Are we talking about linear speed or are we talking about rotational speed?
단 족세세 기체상스 담발라야 양싱아서 도와준 거레스. 나서 디캅스 아니 가테트근 족세대 시기에 술크근 족세대 시기에 그 도와드 떠용 거레스.
And when the cup turns, it's a solid object, so the whole thing would have the same rotational speed.
다 포화대 그 그라자비카스 포화대라야 아니 자포대라야 아니 그 장을 찾고지 인자 네 그게 차시 간자기 아니 그런 거는 족세듯이 바샤고 그랬어.
But the different ends will have different tangential or linear speeds.
아니 이나양스로 그게 다 니만도라로 샵다 니 땅기 지정만도에 담발에 그게 아니 맞수 그 테크닉 족세치로 디만도레스.
So yeah, different speeds for the different ends of the cup. So an interesting thing that you could do, which I should have offered for everybody to build one of their own, is if you take two cups and glue them together at the wide part.
근데 니체서 식단 것은 니체서가 내가 나나 디그리스 아니 단다 자포니체와 저거 자포니체 자포테게 아니 그 카르와 치사든 차도스 아니 자바이나.
And then put them on two very long sticks and roll it. What is going to happen?
다 대가상한 속에 특신이로와 특신하는 데코레이션 된다 전부 니게 강라 두스템바이나 두스카사 두스 두지바이나 네 가르치그레스.
Are they going to stay on the track or are they going to fall off?
다 gelage dos tambaimbaina ko tandage ta drusaga lamka chduwa lamka te gane degerwe yana lamka te gane pharla ya ne karsa sadugres.
Do you want to pin me? And
I just you are pinned, I think so. I just removed your sharing screen.
Good call. So here, I'll let them roll. I'll roll them towards you and I'll roll them back to me.
That pa ko druichga is karching the tawas.
Me. What happened? Did they roll off the tracks?
Kana chanson ko drusa lamka te ge chloga thon saes.
Hit me. How does it know to stay on the tracks?
Da ko drusa ge dada dira do ki baina ko drusa te gane de dek dorwa ko te ge gane da phatsa masra ge ji orwa ne tante ko ge ji go te ko kanas haku yo nas.
I'll go back to share screen.
Sure.
Whoops, slide back or two. Physics to the rescue. So what happens is the cups, they recenter themselves on the track. So when it drifts too far to one side, then that's the narrow end of the cup on the track. And the other end is going to be wider than the other side.
다 단다데 그 쇼치라도 값에 그런다 데 트데 딱가서 피션된 자가라 로 신티가라 해피게 다 차실라 상무당 바이나 그 쇼치란도 바이나 쇼치게 티티스 치와지로 컵 저거다 프로게 치사들레 거래 젠다들라야 컵게 뜨스 타 총사들레기요 레스 지총만도 작으로 해서.
And since it's a solid object, I glued it together, it all rotates at the same angular speed, but
다단다데 값인 바이나 디가 수게 제요 쫑다고 뉴 첩고 시글라 따고요로 디 값인 바이나 고게 슬큰 적세시 빠시장 레스 이나양스
they rotate at different linear speeds.
다 고게 니만도 니기 지총 만도 디 파줄라 투피 값스 아니 고게 아니 단테게 적세치고로 왔다 만도 레스.
So when it drifts to one side onto a smaller cup, or a smaller end, the other side that's wider actually ends up with a faster speed over here.
Tati kapsin bana ko chochila ya du imbana ane chochupa nurbi kapsin bana shenda tege ane ta chiwatirwa this chesachi ane ko tandagi tishintiga hegoyorwa this tambalaya kugi this chotirwa chesagi choti ane karioresna joksetis chiwayores.
And then that causes it to veer back onto the track. It's a neat trick. We utilize this property on railroads.
Tanga suge tegi chechiti kawala pechetang gore senanga suge minkol chaklam kama pechetang gore.
The axles of trains are huge, solid, not soldered. Now I can't remember the when you. I can't remember the term now, but it's one huge solid piece. And if you look closely at the ends of the axle, they have a slight taper to them, like the tips of these cups.
Tanda digi minkol ge kolula samnatang bai bana kolu chichi game koda hachang karsugurita joko sao chembo imba kanskila ane koran chala ya sokshin chike dos tuyores ane kolu te yang dos tabaina kolu te ge ane karsugure
Welded, that's the word I was looking for. It's all one welded piece. So the track is the two little pieces over there, and the train can wobble a little bit back and forth on it, but it's held in place because of the shape of the axle.
Imena yanta koge ko tan rusage minkroge dolam chiorwa te gane ko duste gor san samla ko passer la chiga yama chwanda uton tetes yomyondo chigres imena yan ko zota de la temedete ro ko zota de la temedete ani ko tanda minkroge lamka gamete hiores.
One of the misconceptions about trains is folks tend to think that the train is held on the tracks by that little wider piece at the very end. But if you look closely at the train wheels, you'll see that those portions never come in contact with the train track.
Ale te minkorte kono minkorge chalam gane tatan zanyete ane koge kimagi la ya chi tatis ringwa chi dorwa chimana chaktis ringwa ra chi do kolu ganarwa otigi ane ko jede biores tilatene de te minkorte kolote gane koge minkorge lamka gane sagyo mare se ngasu ge samlu tantong no chichi yores tong misi bana chechugi jima tadas tagi kimagi kuge ta rangwigi chidwa kholugi kimagi chukla chiga rangsa chidwa te katu imba na ya dela minkhurge chiglam gangla tukumares.
So just a follow-up question, which unfortunately I didn't build, is what happens if we connected the cups the other way?
Ta dengi zumes imba na ya ta detan tumbigi da degi da joa chirwa da shochuga joa chila ya kete ni proge ni chungwa ni tuchidu stamba imba na kari chongsares.
Chialang Rogres.
Searching
Chialang.
Sasares.
Sasare.
Searching Chialang dos.
Okay, yeah, one will fall towards the center.
It'll quickly, it won't rock back and forth. It will veer and then fall through the middle and go nowhere.
Yeah. Ko da ngomati baina ko chochine pa ro baina senda tin dolo yo che ko chigdo ro imbaina dandan de kapse ko chochi jinjo jo chi baina da senda de jinjo ro ma te jinjo ro jo te la tin de na ko mat tin ro de te ne cho ngonal hepate ani kimala sandu is.
So I see we're close to break, and this is actually a pretty good spot because we kind of change topics a little bit on the next slide. So I think it's a good idea to just consider this as the beginning of the break, unless anybody has any questions.
Ta tanda so tegi jela te yanko sawachi mutu chigi yesne tanda so percentage ge joshi samna ta paro de se chula sen gudus ne yanketi chesula ya draw yo paina ya draw na draw ta chis draw me na percentage ge sens.